Okay, so in this part of our annual update, I will talk about the systems and automotive work group. In the overview, you've seen that these are officially it's two dedicated working groups, but due to current capacity and also a high overlap in architectural approaches, like how systems are composed and especially like more complex system, we brought the systems and automotive work group activities together currently. So the presentation is then split in two parts. I start with uh, the systems workgroup activities and give you an automotive update more towards the end about recent things which are going on. Actually, we come to a phase where we maybe even have enough things to discuss and bring up explicitly for automotive parts. But yeah, as mentioned, currently it's operated as part of the systems workgroup. And topics we discover are like ECU centralization, mixed criticality. We also have regular exchange with AGL. They came up with their SODEF environment, which is very much aligned to what ELISA has in there. And even if the automotive work group seems to be not super operative as a standalone item, you can really see that a bunch and a lot of these discussions in the architecture, OSAP, uh, features also are driven by automotive environment. And we've just conducted like the safety critical industries BOF at FOSDEM. And we could see at FOSDEM also that there's still a bunch of automotive people who have a strong interest. So I would say like 40% of the people there participating showed that they have a strong interest for the automotive space. Other industries we also look into is like railways. I'll have a slide for this later. And yeah, then like from the aerospace work group, we also participate in the systems work group. This is there, and I just got an outreach again from some Northern Germany research center who actually also are interested in the systems work group architecture. That's just a bit about this. Um, to give you some insights for those who are new and haven't participated in the activity so far, so is that the systems work group aims to enable other working groups within ELISA. Why so? What we see is that we have a lot of work going on and we focus a lot on Linux things, but the system consists on much more parts. So therefore we see how we can structure things. So if we would ignore the real-time OS in an automotive system or also aerospace, other industries, we would miss some part. And therefore, if you just focus on one element in the system, this could mean you do not get a holistic picture. And this is really important that you understand this thing there. So we put this in a wider system context and we try to create a reproducible example system. We did this in the past, so I had a good report in 2024 where we brought it to Xilinx XU 102 board. We presented this at Embedded World. This was achieved in 2024. Last year, we have more concentrated also on the lighthouse activities, which we will have an update tomorrow. And now we're currently also bringing in the Meta ELISA to get more of the AGL activities aligned. We strongly uh, try to get interactions with other projects uh, in the safety critical domain. So we had direct outreach to Zen and DEFA, for example, or an exchange on the certification pathways. And whatever we do, therefore, is also like we want to get fully in the open source field. We don't want to rely on any proprietary things, may it be device drivers or may it be tools. And this should help that you will be always able to make your and get your own impression on the things. So this is a very uh, often used slide, one of my favorites. And basically says like assessing whether the system is safe requires understanding the system sufficiently. It fully fits into also what Paul said, like you need to take a systematic approach. And in the automotive, there is the safety element out of context argumentation, but in the end, you always end up that this out of context has an assumed context. So you will make assumption on the underlying hardware. You will make assumptions on use cases. And this is really something to understand, like what is my system? What are my system elements? And what is the role of Linux within the system context? How is Linux used in the context? used. And then Linux is a very broad name, but you may not use all parts of Linux. You may use specific Linux components, features, and you need to see which of them are actually relevant for safety, which may not even interfere with your safety parts. And then you need to look into existing gaps. And there are gaps, and this is also what Paul explained, for example, with their guides, the work from Igor in there, the work from Alessandro, who will report later. So this is all about helping you to understand Linux sufficiently and clothing the gaps for your specific system, for your specific use and context. That's just for setting the scene. Then, as it's like the annual update, we want to look briefly into what we have achieved in 2025. Uh, I think one really great achievement was starting the Lighthouse SIG. Lighthouse deals with the open source best practices. We try to come and write down what is really a good sense, how is quality achieved by open source project, what do open source project understand with quality. We don't have the clear definition set within ELISA yet. This will be something coming also. But yeah, more about the Lighthouse also tomorrow in a dedicated slot. Then we promoted railways. Originally, also the systems workgroup was considered as an industrial workgroup, but we figured out it's more generic in the system space. By this last year, FOSDEM 2025, the idea came up, let's start with a railways workgroup. We did this year at FOSDEM again, checked if there's still momentum. We had some meetings underneath, and we still try to um, get enough commitment from operators, from train suppliers, from the manufacturers. So basically, we have the infrastructure then of those buying the trains, those building the trains, and those pro delivering elements for the trains, plus those which may be off the train and on track, so signaling and other parts. So bringing all these people together takes some time, and the railways people sometimes say they are a bit slower and more cautious in the way they do because they have to work for many, many years and operate. So that's something which we had. A completely different thing was the continuous compliance approach that started at the beginning of last year, where it's a company called Infomagnus, who are still actively working, currently also trying out their approach with Zephyr. And what the idea was is to use basically all the things which we put into GitHub and which we bring into a CI to say, here are test cases, here's source code. We create SBOMs. We know from the SBOM what changed, and based on the change, we can trigger test execution. We can do a change impact analysis more easy and support all this to lower the burden for like assessors and those building systems to come to a more continuous compliance argumentation. Then a little minor topic, but still worth to mention, we enabled ASPOM CVE report from what Yocto provides and added this to the CI, basically for the, oh, there, sorry, there's a typo for the medical, not medial work group, which can be looked at. We may go further this year to look how we can bring this into an safety ASPOM, what could work there, and yeah, another part was also that we presented an initial OSS safety critical landscape and certification pathways. We did this at conferences, but also want to try to draw a map like what the open source ecosystem all about. This was ELISA internal. We also had some initiatives like in the wider, broader ecosystem. There is a small tool called Standards Atlas. It's a project coming from the automated train railways activities where the idea is to use also large language model to learn about similarities in various kind of standards, so that you take quality standard and railway standard, medical standards, whatever you have, IEC, ISO, and other parts, and feed them into a model so that you can see here are similarities in the approaches, where is an overlap, where are deviations, and this is abstracted, so you will not be able to see the full standard. You still need to buy the standard, uh, or some of them are also freely available, but this helps you to see like where can I make reuse of parts. So we presented this, discussed this a little bit, And also, we aligned with the Eclipse Automotive Process work group. They had an own work group, I think, which is currently not fully operational. They are reforming this and looking for the approach to go on. Um, but we wanted to make sure that whenever we talk about automotive systems, processes, and so on, that we do not contradict or do duplicated efforts what they are doing. And then with AGL, I mentioned this already, we started uh, to talk again more in detail because the architecture which was presented in the systems work group in 2024 is a good foundation for the AGL's SODEF. I'll show a picture later on this as well. So what will we do for 2026? There's some cross-working group activities. We want to work cross-working groups. So we always end at the term like, what is quality actually? What is software quality? What does the term mean? What do we understand? How can we say this is open source software quality? And I guess this is a good topic also, which requires then peer reviewing and getting it more mature, documented, published. So this is something where Paul and I already had pre-discussion. So we worked together on this during the year. Then from the past automotive, we were working on safety monitoring. This may also relate to the question from the previous session, like how do we apply Linux in automotive? There are already things in the field, a lot of also around monitoring, understanding, like monitoring of workloads, system parts, and so on. We have this tailored for telltales, the warning signs for automotive use cases, and we thought we can come to a more generic, wider approach. What are the commonalities about use cases? Where do monitoring make sense? So this will lead to a collaboration with the LFSCS, so the features work group from Alessandro, who will present at the end of the day, and also the architecture, which Gab will present after me. Then we plan to have CI improvements, for example, in the way how we use the tools, how the reproducible system works, bring them to the latest LTS branches and so on. This you can see as it was as community engagement. There is some kind of safety configuration from the Xen project. We want to see if we can use some of the guideline there from the Xen project to make not a standard Xen, but a Xen version which comes a bit closer to what's later on used for safety in the ELISA example system. An update to Zephyr to the latest version of it makes also sense because the current version, as we mainly use it to demonstrate in RTOS, is a year and a half old. So we should update something there. That's also on our radar. Other things we started and have ongoing are an open source landscape page. This should be something like landscape.elisa.tech. I show it a little bit later. Railway SIG formation. That's the next meeting is somewhere planned. I also show about this. And enhance the automotive SODEF collaboration. We currently update the Meta ELISA for the instrument cluster to the latest state. Integrate then the Meta ELISA hopefully into the SODEF directly. Then the telltale monitoring need to go somewhere. So we could include this into the Zephyr domain and have then yeah, really safety monitoring there as an example. And where we're not sure yet what we do because there's so many people asking us like how will large language model impact this, and this is definitely a software topic or a system topic. So therefore we see also like can AI and safety systems be something we bring into systems, right? Briefly on safety critical open source landscape. What do I'm talking about? So we saw like on the right, this is a typical diagram which we had on our example reference system from ELISA with some tooling, microcontroller parts. We were not taking too much, but we had the microprocessor virtualization with Xen and then the RTOS with Zephyr, a rich OS, how we called it, like Linux could be something else if you bring it in. You need documentation and tracing around it and have the whole system perspective indicated by this frame around it. And we took, for example, a tool and present a bit about requirements tools, frameworks around this, traceability. So you can see the long list there. To just give you an impression on what projects could be in there, I prepared an exemplary safety critical open source project initiative selection. It's just a spot check. There are definitely much more to be mentioned, but this was just like from where I had touch points during the previous year or where systems workgroup members said like, okay, that's something which I know. And we also wrote a little bit of article which should be published hopefully in March timeframe as conference proceedings from Safety and Security Symposium. So there, in this one, you'll find this top left overview where we mention like the different areas. They are not fully correct, right? You can argue if ISRIX is a middleware or only a communication framework, and if you can also see like the L4A, which is put under virtualization, while it's also on microkernel RTOS. So therefore, it's not fully proper, and we hope that the landscape will make this more clear. Bottom right, you see an example of the LF Energy landscape. It's tooling which comes also from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It's an open source tool which helps to represent this. And I guess there's a lot of projects which are at End Foundation which adopting this kind of landscape. And I guess it can be very useful for us. So that's the idea is there. There is a link, but the link is dead for now because we haven't populated it yet. Then on railways, we had several meetings. We started the idea of a direct work group. We may turn this into a special interest group to see like how it incubates. Um, we came to a good formation, like what we want to deal with, which standards could be approached, and this was at 2025. We said like, let's see how this resonates in 2026 at FOSDEM. We got a full room at the railways, BOF, even if it was hard to find and more a little bit hidden room, but we really had like 40 plus people sitting in the room, and therefore also got new participants. We'll currently look for the meeting. It will be either end of February, like 27th, or early March to 3rd and 4th. This will be shared via the mailing list, also on LinkedIn once it is there. So subscribe to the ELISA, follow the activities, then you will also get aware. Or if you directly are from the railways industry and became curious, drop us a message on the channel and I directly add you to and provide you with the necessary links. Now on automotive, uh, we have the Meter ELISA, which is there since a long time. It's our way of integrating into AGL. We basically have then an AGL link. We have scripting, Docker container, everything prepared. And we now bring it forward to the latest release. We said it was working, it fulfilled our needs, we had a good state, and then we let it there for some time. And now with the AGL SODEF, it makes more sense to update again, to get a new experience, to make it also maintained. And yeah, it's not currently it's a little bit of visual update, and I hoped that we will have it already merged, but we want to make sure that 2 or 3 people can successfully reproduce it. We had this in the past that if we simply have like one person providing the update, another person checking it, that there's still a chance that the environment is different and you don't see that it operates further. That's also why we have a Docker container which gets reworked and so on. Information in principle is there. You have the links, Meter ELISA and Workgroup Automotive on GitHub. You'll find some updates and progress over there. So now finally, I want to show briefly the AGL SODEF architectural overview. And if you have the slide picture in the back from the previous slide still in mind, you can see that there is a Xen project and the Zephyr part. This is basically what's taken over. There are much more domains and there's also infotainment. And so this is more complex use case. But you also see the IC graphical stack with DOM-U AGL and the DOM-U Zephyr ASIL B part. This was presented by Honda, who are a member also of the ELISA project. So Kusakabe-san showed this at the Open Source Summit Japan. At the top right, you can see like how to accelerate SDV with AGL SODEF. Search for it on YouTube. It's a clickable link also in the slides, which will be shared. So you can see basically the presentation there and get more details on what they plan. And this is a bit of a messy picture because I also took the screenshot from there. But what you find in the top bottom right There is the instrument cluster again. There are telltales within this instrument cluster which get rendered by the DOM-U AGL. That's where the big red arrow points to. And then there is also some preps from the DOM-D, from the driver domain, which interacts with the telltale checking. So that's what we had with the checking monitoring. And then have also a DOM-U Zephyr ICRT stack, which cooks more on mealtime checks. So this is like a concept, and we will evaluate how this fits in, and then hopefully integrate. This would be the ultimate stretch goal, that the Meta ELISA is properly supported also within an AGL build. If you want to see where we are, there was ELISA project in the wild. We had presentations 2025 at Embedded World. So more white part. I cannot share the link because this is only a little more closed for the participants. But I put 2 recordings of our first ideas on an open community-driven standard, and then we had a presentation in Taiwan as well. So we went from Germany to US to Taiwan, back to Germany at the ELSA Symposium, which will end up in a publication soon, and also the Open Source Summit Japan. So once around the globe. We continue with it in 2026. And we have FOSDEM. It's already over. We will be at Embedded World, so meet me there. I'll be there all 3 days, either at the ETAS booth on the conference, also giving updates on the safety critical landscape. We will present also the safety topics and system path on Eclipse OCX in Brussels in April. We'll have a workshop early June, and then there's the Open Source Summit Europe, Japan, North America, where we can also find ELISA representatives, and that's just like the confirmed slots, more to come. I will conclude with a call to action because basically are at the 20 minutes presentation time as considered. The system work groups meets every other Tuesday at 16 UTC during daylight saving time 15 UTC, and we have the mailing list for systems, automotive, and lighthouse. Please subscribe. We have the Discord channel. I put the one from the systems work group there. You can also create issues or PRs or review things in the systems ELISA or automotive work group. And by this, I would say thank you for listening and looking forward to see you in the community. Good. And I cannot see if someone is having a question in the QA, I cannot see this one because it says
I,
it's not connected. So you need to
yeah,
open it if there's anything.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but if you would like to ask a question, just raise your hand. I can unmute you. Oh, I see one. Okay.
Good.
Oh, Andres, you raised your hand. You want to unmute yourself to speak? Mm.
If it's not working, you can also type the question in the chat.
Well, I don't see any hands raised. Would anybody like to ask questions? Just let me know. I can unmute you. No questions, Philip.
Okay. If they come up, meet me at the event. Go to the Discord. Feel free. So, there one question isn't there.
Yep.
Okay, which weekly meeting is related to this presentation? If I understood well, both are related to open source process meetings correctly. So we have one weekly meeting for the OSEP part, which is on Thursdays, which goes on the open source engineering process. Within the systems work group, we have the systems, which goes more into the software part of it. And the lighthouse, which goes towards the best practices standard, is on a Friday part. They are all shared in the ELISA calendar, where you can just simply click on it and subscribe. And normally the work groups also have a description what they are about. So Min, maybe you can share the
Mhm.
calendar invite a little bit later, like or
Yeah,
the link to the
so
public calendar. Yeah,
so you mentioned the one on Thursday
yeah.
and the other one is on Friday.
So the one with Telltale and Xan Zephyr and so on. This is a Tuesday one, Tuesday 16 UTC. And the Friday's one is going more on the Lighthouse topics. This was just a spotlight. We'll see the other parts tomorrow. So this is more about which best practices exist in open source projects, what kind of maturity models are already defined. Um, the fundamental idea about this is how can we argue that open source software can bring a similar quality or a better quality than what you have with a standard ASPICE quality model or so from Automotive or CMMI. So if you're more in the technical things, Tuesday. If you're more in the standards, practices, and so on side, a Friday meeting would be good. And both are in the calendar, which Min
Perfect.
just
Thank you.
shared.
Yeah, we had access to the calendar, but yeah, it was hard to the
Yeah,
different working groups and what has been
right. And
covered by each of them. So the presentations today are really helpful to yeah to
great.
figure out the contents of it. So
Great.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that's also the reason why we're doing this on a good base. If there's still uncertainties and you can either drop me a mail, it's my first name dot last name at bosch.com, or you approach me via LinkedIn, or you send a message to info@elisa.tech, and then it will reach us properly so we can respond to your question
Yeah, sounds
or
good.
use
I
Discord.
think the best way is to start joining a couple of meetings and yeah,
Yeah.
verify by personal experience. I'm just concerned whether it's any conflict with the other ELISA working groups that I participate and some other uh, meetings I have.
Mhm.
But other than that, yeah, seems good. Thank you.
Yeah. And the TSC meeting typically also tries to align. Okay, we are at the end of the presentation time, so I don't want to let gap way too long. I guess I look for the recording button again.